Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Elevate Your A podcast. I'm your host, Chris McPeak, and I'm super excited to have Nick Loper, founder of Side Hustle Nation, on the show today. Nick is one of the people that I started listening to and following when I was beginning to start my own side hustle. So it's a real honor to have him on the show today in the wake of my book launching. So, Nick, thank you so much for carving time for me today.
Well, thanks so much for tuning in. Again, congrats on this book launch. This is exciting stuff.
Thanks. I'm really thrilled about it. Well, let's just go back to the beginning. How did you first become so passionate about the side hustle? And what was your day job before you started your first side hustle?
Oh my goodness. So I was working corporate for Ford, where I was a factory rep to their dealerships on the service and parts side of the business.
Oh,
Part
wow.
of it is fascinating business. Some of these guys that I would go call on, were fourth generation dealers. They had their franchises signed by Henry Ford. Like, it was really cool
Oh,
as a
wow.
22, 23-year-old to like
Right.
go in and try and sell some stuff to what are arguably probably the best salespeople in the world. So that was the day job. The side hustle, the original side hustle, was selling shoes online. It was a comparison shopping site
Oh,
for bargain
wow.
hunters. Right, we're pulling the catalogs from Zappos and Amazon and all these other footwear retailers and tell you where you could find the best price on your next pair of shoes, and would collect an affiliate commission on every order that was generated through the site.
So, how did you find that?
It was actually through an internship that I had in college
Oh,
with
wow.
this company in Seattle that was, again, family owned brick and mortar shoe store that in the early days of the internet had the wild and crazy idea of, well, why don't we put up some of this backroom inventory on the internet and see what happens? And of course, by the time I came on board as their marketing intern,
Right.
the online portion of their business had grown leaps and bounds faster than their single location brick and mortar spot. So that was my first exposure to pay-per-click advertising and e-commerce and affiliate marketing and SEO and all that stuff. It was really cool to kind of uh, be in on the ground floor of all that stuff.
Yeah, that is pretty exciting. So then obviously you branched out at some point. So like what were some of the stepping stones that you took to get, where you are right now?
I mean, the biggest thing was so 3 years of nights and weekends was side hustling, trying to build up this the shoe business. Quit my job in 2008 to become a full-time online shoe salesman. That at the time, I naively thought like this could be my thing. Like
Yeah, this is it, right.
I can just do this. Um, I have since learned that every business has a somewhat finite lifespan, and over the course of the next 8 or I guess 6 years from that point, the timeline was up for that business, and it kind of was on this slow, steady decline. Where I was really grateful to have started a bunch of other side projects during that time,
Okay.
most of which were horrible flops, didn't go anywhere. But a couple are still around today, including the Side Hustle Nation blog and the Side Hustle Show podcast. So again, it was part of this diversification play, side hustles on side hustles, and was really glad I had that stuff to fall back on as the shoe business kind of went riding off into the sunset.
Yeah. So did the whole market tank of 2008, did that impact you in any way? Or were
I
you
was
kind of
actually
in between?
just hit publish on like recession-proof businesses. So 2009 ended up being the best year in that business. I think
Wow.
people were like looking to save money, and so it ended up working out. Um, it was more related to, so that business played in the margin between the cost of traffic, never got any love from Google organic search or SEO. It was all like had to pay for every click, and what that
Wow.
traffic was worth on the flip side in terms of average affiliate commissions. And so over the years, like as more and more people started advertising, good on Google to set their system up as an auction, so we keep outbidding each other,
Right.
and so those margins got narrower and narrower.
Wow. That's some fascinating stuff. Okay, so what did you learn about balancing a day job with the side hustle as you were kind of making your way through the journey?
I mean, the biggest thing for me was to make a consistent effort, and I was really probably had the unfair advantage of having started this in a long distance relationship. So had lots of evenings to myself. I had moved to the other side of the country, so I didn't have a lot of friends outside of the office,
Okay.
and had no kids at that time. So those three things that I don't have today definitely added up to a lot more extra hours. So for me, it was pretty consistently like uh, get home from work, go to the gym, have dinner, clean up, and then from like 7 or 8 until 10 was like side hustle time. And
Yeah,
I was pretty consistent, kind of like just trying to get this thing off the ground.
that's perfect. So what advice would you give to somebody who might not have the fortune of having, a 3-hour empty time every day to themselves to, rock a side hustle?
Yeah, the biggest thing so is that consistency element. So whether that's 10 minutes a day, whether that's an hour a day, I think you can find that time. I think an hour a day is like 4% of your day. Like
Yeah.
it's not that big of a sliver. I imagine you could find that in the gaps in your schedule, even though I've definitely been there where it's like, dude, I did not have a spare moment today. I don't know where I would carve out this time. What one another person recommended to me was like, you have the most control over what he called the bookends of your day,
Mhm.
meaning first thing in the morning or last thing before bed,
Yeah.
because in the middle of the day, just kind of you're in putting out fires mode, you're in reactive mode, responding to other people's agendas a lot of the time. But if you
Right.
can carve out even just a half an hour first thing in the morning or right before bed to just move the ball forward a little bit, doesn't have to be a lot, check that box and say, okay, I made some progress today.
Yeah, totally. I get up really early. So for me, it all started in the morning with the morning routine. And you're right. The consistency is super important, especially if you're trying to build on something. Figuring out like these are the days of the week that make the most sense for me to work on my email list. And these are the best days of the week that make sense to work on social media. And yeah, so when you build on that, then the rest of it is gravy, really.
Well, tell me about the book project, because this is a classic example. Like in several years ago, I would have on my to-do list like write book, and it would just sit there for weeks and months at a time, because like when am I ever going to have a 100-hour block of time to sit down and
Yeah.
knock this out? It doesn't exist. So I'm curious, like what was your writing schedule like?
I started writing at lunch most of the time because we have at the day job, we have this beautiful break room that's set up sort of like a really big kitchen. So there's a couple refrigerators and lots of table space. And then there's some couches too. So I would just pull my work laptop in there, my personal laptop, put that in there and just go to town on whatever was on my mind that day. And the whole like the sticky notes that indicate every section of the book I wanted to write on. So I would just look at the sticky note, like what's calling to me today, and sit
Okay.
down and try to write that and do the whole like, I'm going to set a timer. I'm going to write for 20 minutes straight, even if what I'm writing is crap. I can go back and fix that later, just as long as I was writing something. And again, with writing too, it's like the consistency is the most important part because you don't train for a marathon by running, 15 miles every weekend. You train for a marathon running 2 and 3 and 4 days a week, building on that. And you write a book the same way. So if you're
Yeah.
writing, 500 words a day and you're doing that consistently, then the rest of it just feels really comfortable after a while. So that's what I did. I wrote at lunchtime until it made more sense for me to write during other times. And then I would do in the morning or I would do after work or whatever made the most sense. But I would say like before I sat down to put the meditation tape on to go to sleep, I need to at least have 1,000 words in the box. So
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
1,000 words a day habit, and it starts to add up pretty fast.
yeah,
During
it
during those
does.
lunch hour sessions, was it just like headphones on, like don't bother me, like coworkers coming in and stuff?
Yeah, no, I sit on the couch like I have my special place that I go every day, and
Okay.
everybody just sort of has their section. Like we all know, um, the second floor of the building I work in is my area, and there's only 7 of us, so we have
Okay.
a great deal of space, but the child development center is below. So the teachers will come up upstairs and take their breaks, and their breaks are much shorter, like they can take 15, 20 minutes at a time. I have a whole hour. So
Okay.
I'm the one person that's in that room for that whole hour. And when I come in, there's a certain group of people there and they'll shuffle out and a new group will shuffle in, but I'm still there in my one spot and it totally makes sense. So
Okay.
it's nice and clean.
I
Um,
appreciate you sharing that. I like that.
oh yeah, no
Consistent
problem.
habit, 500 words a day, 1,000 words a day, because
Yeah,
there's never going to be time to write. I don't know how long the book ended up being, but 40,000 words, 25,000
yeah.
words. It's like, nope, I'm going to have to chip away at this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So everybody stumbles a little bit when they start a side hustle. So what was your biggest lesson learned as you navigated through all your different businesses?
Oh my gosh. So for me, this was incredibly nerve-wracking. On my first day of being a full-time entrepreneur, again, like I said, the site was very reliant on Google paid traffic.
Hmm.
On day one, I've got visions of 4-hour work week and margaritas on the beach and stuff.
Right.
Uh, they shut down my account. They say, Nick, you no longer meet our quality guidelines. We can't let you advertise anymore.
Oh
I was like,
no.
like,
Wait, what?
you go through like anger and denial and like, what
Right.
you couldn't have told me like any other day for the last 2 years. It had to be
Oh
today.
my God.
I just turned in the keys to my company car. Like, what? I was relying, I was banking on this income. Um, it was a very stressful summer, trying to figure out how to get back in their good graces. And ultimately, after a bunch of changes to the site and kind of the internal linking structure without getting too technical, they came back and
Right.
said, looks like we made an error. You're good to go. And just like that, it was like floodgates were back open. It
Wow.
was it was a very stressful time. Like I still had hair at that time. It was a very stressful summer. It it kind of taught me, I guess, number one, the importance of diversification. Like I thought I was diversified because I had 25 or 30 different advertisers on the site.
Yeah.
Um, but you peel that back a layer, it's like, well, where does all the traffic come from? 80% of it came from this single traffic source, so it's pretty fragile there. And then the other thing kind of that I've kind of learned since then is that everything is temporary. It's like, yeah, that sucked, that was awful, but it was temporary. You figure out a way to get through it. Same thing with the zooming out to the business as a whole. It was
Right.
great while it lasted, but it was temporary. I mean, same thing right now with Side Hustle Nation. I go through periods where Google loves me. I go through periods where Google likes me a little bit less. It's like, okay, breathe through it. It feels like you got punched in the gut, but it's
Yeah.
temporary. How to get past it.
So what do you do to push through? Like on the days where you're like, oh my gosh, like no one's finding my stuff, and then what? Like, how do you keep it moving?
For me, what was really motivating in the early days was the little fledgling bits of audience engagement that I did have. It was like, oh, somebody left me a comment. Oh, somebody
Nice.
emailed me. And when people would join the email list, I would send them like a personal message. Like I did this for the first probably like 10 or 20,000 subscribers. It was
Oh
like,
wow,
hey, thanks for signing up. What are you working on? Just to try to like show like, hey, this is a real
that's
person. This is
great.
a real thing. And then what's motivating now is people coming back and saying, hey, I found your podcast. I listened to episode whatever, or I've been listening for years. I took action on this particular idea, and these are the results that I'm seeing. Like now I'm making an extra $1,000 a month or something, or now I quit my job. And it's like that to me is like, that's incredible. It's like, because
Yeah,
most of the people
that's
you'll never hear from.
gold.
Like it's very
Right.
anonymous. And so it's really cool when people reach out and share that kind of stuff.
I can't remember who the guest was that you had, but it was something about how to set up a paid mastermind. And I listened to that episode and I did. I started my first mastermind group from that
Okay.
episode. My gosh, it wasn't Amy, was it Amy Porterfield?
I think it was Natalie Ekdahl from
Yes,
BizChicks.
yes, from Biz Chicks, right. So, yeah, and I did. I had a really good run of 3 months with the paid mastermind group. It was small, but yeah, I that episode was like, okay, let's do this. Seems easy enough,
Yeah.
so let's roll with it. So, yeah, the cool stuff. Oh my gosh, this is so fun. Okay, for people who might be considering a side hustle but don't know where to start, what might be some profitable, easy suggestions to consider?
Easy, profitable suggestions. Well, it all depends on where you want to go and what you can see yourself enjoying doing.
Yeah.
I would probably caution against like, well, this is what I'm passionate about, because that to me that's a stressful question. Like, what am I passionate about? I don't know. I have found, and some researchers have found this as well, is like passion tends to follow doing the work. Like I painted houses in college, and
Uh-huh.
was not passionate about painting, didn't know anything about painting. But after a couple summers, you can't help yourself but like looking up under the
Right.
eaves and be like, that is a paint job waiting to happen. You learn to love it. Same thing with podcasting. It's like I had
Hmm.
no idea what I was doing, but became passionate about it over the years. So that being said, um, you'll probably want to consider one of three business models when you're starting out:
Okay.
be selling a service, selling a product, or building some type of audience-based business. And the advantage of the audience-based business is you have ultimately more flexibility. It can be more time leveraged, but it takes a little bit more time to ramp up. This would be creating podcast content, YouTube content, blog content,
Hmm.
right? Lots of fun, very cool creative outlet, um, and really rewarding work, but not something to start if you're looking to ring the cash register immediately.
Right.
Uh, so if you're in that boat of like, hey, how do I make money quickly? I would go with the service-based business. That could be freelancing, that could be consulting, that could be mowing lawns, that could be babysitting, could be whatever. And then the product-based business, there's a bunch of nuance underneath there, where a lot of people start out in the side hustle space is just flipping, basically buying low,
Yeah.
selling high, selling stuff on eBay, selling stuff on
Hmm.
Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, um, getting creative on how you source inventory. Maybe that's like a consignment deal in your neighborhood. Like, look, listing this stuff is a pain. You got to take pictures. You got to deal with the back and forth with buyers. Look, I'll do all that for you, and you'll just take a fee. I'll just take a percentage of whatever it
Yeah.
ends up selling for. So I think there's lots of opportunities both in that freelance service-based space and then the product space.
Yeah. Oh, I remember selling on eBay back in the day where there weren't iPhones yet, so you had to use a digital camera, and then you had to transfer the camera pictures over to the computer, and then you had to upload them to eBay. And now it's, they pull directly from your phone, and
Yeah.
it's so easy, it's so simple. I'm thinking quickly about the concept of I mean, would you consider like Uber and Lyft and Postmates and Instacart, would you consider that a service based industry?
Yeah, I think so. So what we didn't touch on was this entire realm of gig economy
Yeah.
type of apps, the Ubers, DoorDashes, Postmates of the world. Absolutely viable options, and actually can be a really quick way to make extra money, right? It's plug and play in a lot of
Yeah.
cases. The downside to those is it's a skill that almost everybody has, and so that
Hmm.
puts a natural downward pressure on your earning power.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have something that is unique to you, or at least is perceived to be unique to you, I think you can command better rates.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
realistically, um, although during the peak of COVID, my Instacart contact said he was making
Bank.
insane money.
Yeah. Right. I bet. And
Uh,
Postmates and all of those, I think, probably kind of went through the roof.
I think they're doing well. I think they have since onboarded about 250,000 new drivers, so
Right.
the
Right.
supply has increased a little bit by now.
Yeah. Oh, my husband drove Uber for a while, and it seemed pretty lucrative in the beginning. And then the minute that they kind of turned to that whole pool thing,
Yeah,
it wasn't, it even seemed so much that more drivers were adding themselves into the mix. It just seemed like they were pulling back from like the single rider type thing. And it was right around that time that the car he was using had an accident. And they don't let you use rental cars for those businesses. So he was like, okay, I think I'm done with this. But it was fun for a while for him anyway. He had
yeah.
some good nights. In your opinion, why is taking on a side hustle so satisfying?
Well, lots of reasons. For I'll give you a couple. One is this is Tony Robbins says the secret to happiness, his one word secret to happiness was progress. And so for me, a side hustle can be
I love
a
that.
way to make progress on something that you care about
Hmm.
that maybe you don't get at your day job. Maybe that's just trying to give yourself a little bit of financial breathing room, or maybe it's exercising your creativity in some way.
Yeah.
But the sense of progress has been really, really powerful for me. And I was always the kid who would like, I want to play the video games where you could like save your game and like level up your character, because I was like,
Right.
hey,
Yeah.
even though this is totally meaningless, like I feel like I'm making some progress. The second thing comes from Dan Pink, and it's a book called Drive, where he talks about autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And so a side hustle can let you exercise those things, especially if you're not getting them at your day job. Like, hey, autonomy, this is something that's all me, something that I
Yep.
have control over. I get to call the shots. I can be working towards mastery. Like if I'm starting, in my case, I'm starting a podcast. I definitely am not a master early on. I'm still working toward that. So it kind of doubles on that sense of progress. And then the sense of purpose is like, what is the proverbial dent I'm making in the universe? What is the impact that I'm having on other people? I talked about how motivating and how empowering it can be to hear from audience members. And I think that is something that drives a lot of people. It's like, I hear from my customers all the time that they, are super grateful for, whatever service it was that I provided. They love this product. I think that type of sense of greater purpose, the people that you serve, can be a big factor as well.
That's beautiful. I need to pick that book up. It's one of those that keeps popping into my like people who bought your book also bought this kind of thing. And so his book keeps popping up. So that must
Yeah, I
be
want
a
to say he's
sign.
got. I want to say he's got a TED talk on it. That's like,
Does he?
the 18-minute version of it.
Great. Super cool. Okay, let's do some rapid fire. This is one of my fun new things to do.
Okay.
Would you rather drink a Coke or a Pepsi?
Um, Always Diet Coke for me,
Yes.
and usually with Jack. I
Oh, okay.
can't remember I've
Fair
had
enough.
a Coke without a mixer in a long time.
Right. So red wine or white wine?
Red wine.
Um,
A white wine,
Donuts.
like white wine is so good, but it's because it's chilled. I would drink it way too fast.
Okay, fair enough. That's a really good point. Um, Donuts or cupcakes?
Donuts.
Would you rather swim in the ocean or rather swim in a pool?
Uh, Pool.
Okay. Okay,
Oceans are
so
fun too, though.
I love beaches. I'm not an open water swimmer. I'm a pool swimmer, but my husband does both.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're both podcasters, but if you had a choice between listening to a podcast and an audiobook, which would you pick?
Podcast.
If you could only listen to one song for the rest of your life, what song would it be?
Oh my gosh, one song. I don't even know.
A song that
Uh,
will never die for you.
Never die. The first one that comes to mind is "Better Together" from Jack Johnson.
Cool. And who, in your opinion, was the very best Batman?
The very best. I don't think I've seen any Batman movies.
Oh
Um,
man, you're breaking my heart.
who's Christian? I did see one with Christian Bale and Heath Ledger, so that's all I've got
Yeah,
to go on.
that's a good answer. Okay, cool. Nick, where can everybody find you online if they want to connect with you?
Sidehustlenation.com. If you hit sidehustlenation.com/ideas, that's a good place to start if you are looking for a side hustle. Otherwise, sidehustlenation.com is the home base. Of course, would love to have you tune into the podcast wherever fine podcasts are sold.
Rock on. We have been talking to Nick Loper of Side Hustle Nation. Thank you again so much for being on Elevate Your Rate today.